Don't tell people your problems. By the time you learn why, it's already cost you peace, trust, and more than a few sleepless nights. Hi, I'm Vernon again. If you're tired of opening up only to feel judged, ignored, or quietly resented, this message is for you. Pain doesn't need an audience, and not everyone deserves your truth. Some people don't listen to help, they listen to remember your weakness. In this video, we'll talk about the 3 quiet truths why you should never tell people your problems. Why strength isn't found in sharing, but in knowing who's truly earned a seat at your table. Stay with me. This might be the reminder your soul's been waiting for. And if this message speaks to you, consider passing it on. A like, a share, or even a click to subscribe helps more than you think. Let's begin, because sometimes the most painful lessons are the ones whispered in silence, not shouted in the open. Truth number 1. Most people can't handle the weight of your pain. The hard truth is, most people can barely manage what they're already carrying. And when you bring them your problems, no matter how gently, it's like handing a glass of water to someone already underwater. They flinch, they distance, they misunderstand. I've been there. I remember opening up to someone I trusted during one of the heaviest seasons of my life. I wasn't looking for answers, just a little human connection. But the moment I shared, I saw it in his eyes. Discomfort, hesitation, even a bit of fear. And after that day, he never looked at me quite the same. It wasn't that he was cruel, it's just that my vulnerability reminded him of something he hadn't faced in himself. And that's the reality. Your pain can make people confront parts of themselves they'd rather keep buried. The philosopher Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That wisdom applies just as deeply to pain. You don't need to unpack every scar to prove you're strong. There's dignity in what you endure quietly. Some burdens, when carried without complaint, speak louder than any explanation ever could. And in a world where oversharing is the norm, restraint becomes a rare kind of power. Not silence from weakness, but silence born from knowing your worth doesn't need an audience. You see, when you share your struggles with the wrong people, you don't lighten the load, you just feel more exposed. That's why solitude isn't always a curse. Sometimes it's a sanctuary. Taking a quiet walk, sitting with your own thoughts, writing it out instead of speaking it aloud. These are not signs of weakness, they're how we learn to self-heal. So the next time you feel like opening up, pause. Ask yourself, is this person safe? Have they earned this piece of me? Tell me your story in comment. Have you ever shared something real and instantly wished you hadn't? It happens more than we admit, and your story might help someone else avoid the same regret. So if the first truth reminds us that most people simply can't carry what you're going through, the next truth shows us something even sharper. Some people don't just mishandle your pain, they use it. And that's where the real danger lies. Let's go deeper.
Truth number 2. Some people will weaponize your vulnerability. Have you ever wondered why someone who once listened to you with a kind face suddenly feels distant, or worse, starts using your own words against you? There's a harsh lesson life teaches us, often too late. Not everyone is content just knowing your pain. Some people will use it. Not always out of malice, but sometimes from something colder, self-interest, ego, or insecurity dressed up as concern. When you open up to the wrong person, you're not just telling a story, you're handing over something sacred. And unfortunately, the world has always had people who treat sacred things carelessly. Your honesty becomes their leverage, your weakness their punchline. Think back to a time you shared something deeply personal only to feel it shift, when that vulnerability became a quiet discomfort in the room, or worse, ammunition for gossip later. It leaves a sting you don't forget. I knew a man, let's call him Richard, who once confided in a colleague about his struggles with anxiety and burnout. He thought he was being human. Weeks later, during a tense team meeting, that same colleague casually referenced Richard's mood swings to question his decision-making. It wasn't accidental. It was subtle and surgical. You see, when someone lacks empathy, your pain becomes a tool, a way to elevate themselves by diminishing you. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once wrote, "Compassion is the basis of morality, but when compassion is missing, manipulation takes its place." This doesn't mean we should bottle everything up. It means we have to discern who can truly hold space for us. Trust is not just about who hears your words, it's about who protects them when you're not in the room. And here's the thing most people overlook. Once you speak it, you can't take it back. Words carry weight, and in the wrong hands, they echo long after you've moved on. So what do we do instead? We document our healing privately. We speak to mentors, not just peers. We lean into practices that restore, prayer, meditation, honest self-reflection. And when we do speak, we choose those rare few who have shown us, not told us, that they're safe. There's strength in measured silence, in choosing carefully where your pain is placed. Like a gardener choosing fertile soil, not every patch of earth deserves your seed. Just remember this, it's okay to keep some things for yourself. Being careful with your truth isn't cold, it's wise. Next, we'll explore something powerful. What it means to stop justifying your path to people who were never meant to understand it, and how sometimes the most convincing thing you can say is nothing at all.
Truth number 3. Let your growth speak louder than your explanations. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize no matter how carefully you explain yourself, some people just won't get it. Not because your reasons aren't valid, but because they've already decided who you are in their story. Trying to correct their version of you is like pouring water into a closed bottle. It won't go in. It just spills out and leaves you empty. I used to think if I could explain my choices better, why I stepped back from certain friendships, why I didn't follow the same path as others, people would understand. But what I found instead was silence, or worse, resistance. Some folks don't want the real version of you. They want the one that makes them feel more comfortable. When you grow, you outgrow, and not everyone grows with you. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." I think that's the core of this truth. Live your growth. Don't narrate it. Explaining your path again and again is exhausting, and the people who demand explanations often aren't looking for understanding, they're looking for a way to pull you back into who you used to be. Instead of trying to convince them, let your life do the talking. Let your peace, your progress, your presence speak for itself. Because growth makes noise, not in words, but in how you move, how you react, how you no longer explain. Sometimes silence is the clearest sign that you've changed, that you're no longer seeking validation, just alignment. When you stop needing others to understand every chapter, you free yourself to keep writing the story. So the next time you feel that urge to explain your decision, your boundary, your silence, pause and ask, do they truly want to understand, or do they just want to keep you where you were? If that truth resonates with you, give this video a quiet nod, maybe a like, maybe a share. Sometimes the smallest clicks carry the biggest messages. And stay with me, because next we'll talk about how real strength is often built not when you're surrounded by people, but when you're sitting alone, with no one watching, and still choosing to rise.
Truth number 4. Strength is forged in solitude, not applause. Not all strength wears a medal or gets a round of applause. Sometimes it's just you, holding steady, saying nothing, and pushing through the kind of pain no one else even knows you're carrying. The kind of battles fought behind closed doors, in the quiet corners of your own mind. And those are the battles that shape you the most. We live in a world that worships visibility. If it's not posted, filmed, shared, did it even happen? But real growth doesn't announce itself. It whispers. And often it happens when you're alone. There were times in my own life, especially in my 60s, when I felt invisible, like the world had moved on and left me behind. But looking back now, those years were when I became strongest. Not because I had people cheering me on, but because I learned to become my own anchor. Solitude, when embraced, becomes a mirror. It shows you what's real, not what's projected onto you, not what others expect, just you. And that kind of clarity is rare. The American psychologist Rollo May once said, "In order to be open to creativity, one must have the capacity for constructive use of solitude." I'd argue that solitude doesn't just birth creativity, it reveals character. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who carried on when no one clapped, no one checked in, no one noticed. They kept going, not for applause, but because something inside them refused to quit. So, if you're in a season right now where you feel alone, not lonely, but alone, know this: that space you're in might just be where your next chapter is being written. You're building something, quietly, steadily, day by day. And one day the people who once overlooked you will ask, "How did you become so strong?" And you'll smile, not out of pride, but because you'll know the answer. In the silence. If that truth speaks to you, drop a simple comment, "Still standing." That's all. Because sometimes showing up quietly is the boldest thing you can do. We're not done yet. The final truth is the most important of all. Why protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential. Now remember the rule that never tell your problem to anyone. Let your silence be sacred. So what have we really uncovered here? That silence isn't the absence of strength, it's the container for it. That withholding your pain isn't cold, it's wise. And that your most powerful moments won't always be seen or shared. They'll be felt, quietly, deeply, by you and no one else. You see, when you stop giving your power away through constant explaining, oversharing, or seeking understanding from those who don't wish you well, you reclaim something priceless, your peace. The French philosopher Blaise Pascal once said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." And maybe that's where strength truly begins, not in being loud, but in learning to be still. Because when the noise fades, when the crowd moves on, when there's no one left to impress or convince, who are you then? That's the self worth investing in, the self who rises in silence, who heals without applause, who walks forward without permission. So protect your peace, guard your energy, not because you're hiding, but because you're growing. And not everyone deserves front row seats to your transformation. If this video meant something to you, pass it on, quietly. Click like, share it with someone who needs this reminder. Subscribe if you'd like more of these moments. But above all else, carry this with you. You don't need to tell the world your pain. You just need to keep walking. In silence, in strength, in peace. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video.